Hi everyone, Ed Leach here from Highland Financial Advisors, back with our series of videos for helping dental practice owners with their planning. I'm here to talk to you today and follow up from our prior video around the importance of getting your estate documents in order with an important planning topic around business succession planning. And this is a conversation most practice owners will often overlook. However, it's one of the most important things you can do as part of your planning. I want to start off today telling you a story. Imagine Maria, a successful dental practice owner with two partners in her practice. They run a flourishing practice, and Maria being a key part of the operational running of the practice, making the big decisions, doing the hiring and firing. On her way to work one day, unfortunately, Maria gets into a car accident, leaving her incapacitated in a coma. Her husband steps in as the role as her conservator and is thrust into managing her affairs, but also being now what is a key partner in the practice. He has no experience with dental practices, has no idea how they run, and here he finds himself having to make key decisions with two partners that he doesn't really have a key important relationship with. A lot of operational efficiencies occur, the future of the practice is in question, risking the investments of not only the partners, but also their family. Now, a lot of this can all have been avoided with some simple planning as part of their estate planning process and with a tool called a revocable trust. And today we're going to dive into all the things you need to know and how to prepare for business succession planning in case of incapacitation. The first topic I want to discuss today is the importance of revocable trust in your succession planning. So unlike a will that goes into effect after your death, a revocable trust, or often called sometimes a living trust, goes into effect immediately once it is created and funded. Initially, you yourself are appointed the trustee of that trust. So any assets you put into that trust, you are in 100% control of. If something were to happen to you, if you were to pass away or become incapacitated, your successor trustees, which is often a spouse or a trusted loved one, steps into the role to be able to control all of the affairs inside of the trust. Now, how would a revocable trust in this situation help Maria? Well, if Maria did planning in advance and created a revocable trust and included what's called special trustees to take over certain aspects of her trust, she would have been able to avoid her husband becoming a key part of the dental practice. Later on, I'll discuss some key provisions you want to have in your trusts, but that is how that could have potentially been avoided. In creating a revocable trust, one of the things you really want to be careful of, it's not just enough to get a boilerplate form, go onto an online website. You really want to make sure that you sit down with an estate planning attorney who has experience in designing revocable trusts for practice owners. Transferring a business interest or a practice interest into a trust takes careful coordination with a document I mentioned in a prior video, your governance documents, your operating agreements, to make sure everything is coordinated with each other. So make sure you sit with an experienced planner and estate planning attorney to carefully design and fund the trust with your practice. The second topic I want to talk to you today are some key provisions you want to think about including inside of your revocable trust. The first, I mentioned this earlier, is special trustee provisions. Now, in the case of your home, your investment accounts, any other assets that you put into this revocable trust, it's okay if something were to happen to you to have a spouse or a trusted loved one be that trustee. However, for the practice, probably not a great idea. So by allowing in your trust to have special trustee provisions, you can appoint maybe one of your practice owner partners or another dentist you know from a networking group or somebody locally to be put in charge of your affairs in terms of managing the practice and making any type of business decisions on your share of the practice. The second key component you want to make sure you include in your revocable trust is an exception to the Uniform Prudent Investor Act. And this act was designed and put inside of trusts to make sure that the trustee who is in charge of your assets that are titled within the trust, they don't concentrate in any type of risky investments. They are required to make sure they diversify your assets. Now, depending on your mix of assets, your practice may be the only thing that is inside the trust, which would inherently, if your trustee wanted to keep the practice intact and not sell it, put them in conflict with that act. So in designing your trust, you can create language to give your trustee leeway to make sure that they can concentrate the assets in your trust into the practice. The third key component you want to make sure that is included in your revocable trust is making sure that you have the broad business-related powers for your special trustee, enabling them to manage the asset, which is the practice, inside of your trust. These are things like making sure they have appropriate powers to handle any stock decisions, voting rights, or anything as it relates to making special tax elections for the structure of the practice. These are all of the powers you want to make sure that you've authorized your special trustee to have in regards to managing the practice in your place. The third topic I want to discuss with you today is sharing some additional tools that you should consider as part of your business succession planning. The first is making sure that you and your partners have appropriate disability insurance and key man insurance. And what those two tools are necessary to provide for is liquidity in the case of your incapacitation or death. And that liquidity is then used to either fund any type of shortfall in the practice because of your lost production, or two, provide liquidity for the other partners to buy out your share, regardless of whether or not it's titled in your revocable trust. So in Maria's example, if she had just had, and her and her partners had the appropriate disability or key man insurance, there might have been enough liquidity for her partners to buy her husband and her share out. The second tool that you want to make sure that you consider is making sure you do a thorough review of your corporate governance documents to make sure it includes the appropriate language to how you and your partners want to structure your practice in case any of you were to become incapacitated or pass away. This would include the right of first refusal for buying out the incapacitated partner's shares, which would, with a valuation that you would have received from a third party, so that way everyone is made whole. Or something like drag-along rights, which would essentially allow a majority owner to make sure that that minority owner is forced to sell their shares. So again, working with a planner and an attorney who specialize in working with dental practice owners can read through these documents to make sure that the appropriate risk management tools are all in place. Now, in the case of Maria, you can see that all of the things we talked about would have helped avoid some of the problems that her and her family ran into in case of her incapacitation. Everything that we discussed today is really important for you to make sure that you have in your practice. It's also really important that you make sure all of your partners in any type of practice, any type of business, maybe it's the real estate you own with a partner that your practice is in. You want to make sure that all of these documents are carefully reviewed and have the right key provisions and appointees in place. A lot of this is dynamic. Your situation, your partners may change over time. It's really important that whomever you're working with is doing the proactive oversight and making sure that your documents are reflective of what your current situation is. And that's part of the process that we do here at Highland. It's all about proactive and it's not reactive to anything that we do in our planning. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're enjoying these videos, make sure that you head down to the bottom of the screen and hit subscribe, and you'll be notified if any of our new videos get posted. Please also make sure, if you're interested in speaking with us, head over our website to set up a free initial consultation to discuss any of the topics we discussed on this video. Look forward to seeing you soon.